Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane. I am the director of the Ashland Public Library. I am excited, so excited to be here with Kit Rocha, who is Donna Herren and Bree Bridges. And we'll be talking lots and lots about mercenary librarians and sexy beyond and things like that in just a minute. But first, I wanted to say thanks to the Friends of the Ashland Public Library for supporting all of our programs. We couldn't do this fun stuff without them. And also, Bree and Donna allowed me to share this program with some of our local libraries. And so several jumped on board. And so I'd like to welcome the patrons from Ashland, of course. Hanover, Lowell, Morse, which is in Natick, Needham, Tewksbury, and Woburn, as well as all of Bree and Donna's fans from all over the country. I'm seeing like, oh my gosh, like all over the world. I'm going to say I see some of my fans too from doing lots and lots of programs. So I'm excited about that. You can buy signed books from Kit Rocha from Aesop's Fable. I'll put the link in the chat. And as many of you might know, their new book is coming out like in November, on November 8th, Consort of Fire. So
I just got final copies of it yesterday, so I have one on my desk.
Beautiful.
Very pretty. I love it.
And yeah, so you can pre-order that from Aesop's or just read it. Get it from a library. I don't care. Just read. It doesn't matter. So we are just going to get right started. You can put your questions in the Q&A. I'll be asking those of Donna and Bree, and use the chat to chat away. And we will be sort of paying attention to that unless we get distracted by it and then have to like not pay attention to that. But feel free to chat with each other. So Donna and Bree, my first question to you, welcome, is I want to know, we will talk about the books in a second, but I want to know about you. I want to know if you were readers when you were kids. And we were talking about libraries a little while ago, so I'm guessing the answer to this. But so Donna, were you a reader?
I couldn't not read. Like if I was at the breakfast table, I'm the kid who's reading the cereal box. Like I knew how to spell all kinds of really complicated chemical names because I was reading the Sugar Smacks when I was like 7 because I didn't have anything else. I wasn't allowed to bring a book to the table when we were eating. And so I was reading, cereal boxes and the back of like the salad dressing label and all kinds of stuff like that. So absolutely all the time. I would read at night with a flashlight under the covers when I was supposed to be sleeping. That sounds so quaint now, doesn't it? Like that's like something from like a period piece, like a kid with a flashlight reading a book under the covers.
The only thing that would be different now is that they would have their phone. That's the only
now I just use I still do it. I just lie in my bed with my phone and read books when I should be sleeping. But, I can do what I want. I'm 46. So I can read books all night on my phone if I want. Yes, absolutely. Read all the time. Anything I could get my hands on.
Excellent. You're my kind of person. And Bree?
Pretty much the exact same. It was, and I told you this, I grew up in a Maine fishing village that had about 50 people who lived there year round. And even like the big town where I went to school had like 1,000 people. And the really big town where we went grocery shopping had 5,000 people. And that was where the library was.
5,000 whole people?
5,000 people. And so that was like, I read everything in the library, and I like very, very clearly remember the day she took me because like I had run out of stuff in the kids' room, and she brought me across to the big grown-up section, and she found it was a Sunfire Romance. They had this series, Sunfire Romances, and they're like American Girls if they were love triangles, teenage American girls, so like set in all these different important parts of history. And there was always one boy who wanted her to do the status quo thing, and one boy who was rebellious and wanted her to buck against, convention and live her own wild life. And so it was, that was my I think that was my introduction to romance too, right there. Oh. So lifelong. I didn't know it at the time, but I had just met my future. So
well, that takes care of my second question for you, Bree. So I'm going to go to Donna on this one, and to everybody who's here. Do you remember the first romance book that you read, or do you remember the name? What is the first romance book you remember reading?
I do not remember the first romance that I read, but it was probably a Harlequin Temptation. I'm gonna guess it was probably maybe by like Cheryl Woods or like Gina Ferris or something. Everything after that is like, I would just go to, no, it was definitely, yes, definitely like a line. I would go to this used bookstore that was in my town, and it was called Betty's Books, and it was, predictably run by a lady named Betty, who had kind of semi-retired, and she basically had what was kind of the holy grail for me, which was a romance focused used bookstore. And she would have like, big standalone titles. She would have all of the lines that she could get her hands on. And she would absolutely just like trade them in and out. And I would just like bring back the ones I had read and get more. And I was completely addicted to Harlequin Temptations, Silhouette Desires, and the little Love Swept line. Completely addicted to all of those. I would look for as many as I could. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that my first romance was probably a Kay Hooper, back when she was doing romance before she switched to suspense. I think that's probably what it was. I think it was probably Kay Hooper.
I'm fascinated by the chat right now. People are just putting in all kinds of great books, and some of them I read, some of them are going on my TBR pile.
Everything.
But I'll say I don't remember for first romance book I read. I know I read a lot of Harlequins because that's what they had. The library had a cart at the library, and they would tear off the cover and sell them for 25 cents. I would just devour those. Oh, wow. But when I turned 16, we were going on a camping trip, and at some like gas station, I bought the full romance book. It was called Cassandra, and it was terrible but wonderful. And I found it on eBay a few years ago, and they called her hoo-ha a honey box.
Oh boy.
Oh, okay.
The one.
Okay, no. If we're gonna talk about terrible but wonderful, I think I have like 3 first romances, because like I read those Sunfires, but then I went straight into sci-fi fantasy, and that was like all I read mostly, except for when I was 18. Somebody, and this like sticks out in my mind so vividly because terrible but wonderful, someone gave my mother a Dara Joy book.
Oh, I read those.
And I found it was I think it was Mine to Take, one of the like space futuristic shapeshifter ones.
Was this one that had like one of the mind control collars in it?
I'm not sure, but like it had the guys who like changed into like shape-shifting cats, I think. So like that one stuck in my memory because I remember that there was like the whole conflict of the book was, if we mate, we will have to do the mating ritual that will kill you from orgasms. And I was like, wow, that's intense.
A lot to take in.
I was 18. Okay, so I was like, wow.
It's a lot to take in.
And then the third time I came back to romance, which is when I came to stay, I read a Megan Hart book. So I really did just like go for the intense stuff.
Yeah, you were like, I'm not gonna do these like baby jumps. I'm hopping off cliffs, man.
Yeah, skydiving.
Oh, didn't Megan Hart write Westerns? Did she? I don't know. I think that she did. No.
She wrote a lot. Like what I was reading is because Harlequin did the was it called The Spice? I can't remember now.
I think it was the Spice line, yeah.
Spice. And so like they had these erotica books. And they were like on the, I'm not sure if they even had to be like erotic romance. I think they were calling them just erotica. And so sometimes they weren't always like traditional happy endings. And Megan Hart liked to write like really twisty ones.
Ooh.
So yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to check those out too. Although this goes back to the terrible and wonderful, so I'm not completely positive it'll end up on TBR.
Well, she was just like intense, and like I think that they were really well written. It wasn't quite the Dara Joy orgasm to death. That's like a unique.
Dara Joy books are just bonkers by nature. You've got to embrace it.
Yeah,
and then you're gonna have a great time.
Wasn't she the one that wrote the book where the gender roles were reversed and the male carried the baby and all of that? Oh,
That sounds
She
like
c-
something she would
she
do.
might
I don't
have.
know.
Like, I think that
Sounds, yeah.
the one that I read was the sequel to one where the hero like pretends to be a house cat that the heroine has adopted for a long time. So like we're talking bonkers.
What?
Beautiful.
I might be confusing her with Robin Schoen. I don't know if you read any of hers back in the day, but anyways, all right. Tangent. Sorry, everybody. But this is super fun. I knew it was gonna be when I first heard from Kit that we were gonna be doing this. So I'm just gonna call you Kit when I'm gonna,
That's fine.
All right. So
Our team calls us the Kits.
Yeah.
okay, I'll work on that too. So I'm gonna my next question really is about writing. When did you know that you wanted to be a romance writer?
When did you know, Bree? Because I think yours is a bit more complex to answer.
Yeah, I've always loved writing. But basically I didn't know I was writing romance because I was in sci-fi fantasy, I had like internalized so much of that weird geek stuff that like has a very skewed idea about romance. And so like finally Donna just like, slapped me across the head and was like, Bree, we met writing shipper fanfic. You write romance. That's what you do. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was
Embrace
like,
it.
apparently I have been writing romance this whole time. The romance was within me for, whatever, friends we made along the way. So yeah, I just once, and that's how we met, in case you don't know. We met writing fan fiction, so way back in the old days though, like in 2000.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
So,
I
we
kind of
met-
always wanted to write romance, so my answer is not very complicated.
Yeah.
So how did you meet in terms of when you were writing fanfic? Was it online? Was it in a class?
Donna wrote a story was it what was the thing that was weird about it? It was in first person present tense, right?
Yes. Which, if anybody is familiar with fan fiction, is just like how most of them are now. But apparently at the time, this was like scandalous. Scandalo.
Yeah, and she posted it to a mailing list, and some people kind of like gave her shit about it. Like, that's not how you do fanfic. And I read it and I loved it. And I was like, no, we will not. I'm going to start fighting you all. We are going to respect this fan fiction. And so that is literally how we became friends. I started a fight. Because people
were the enforcer, huh, Bree?
People were telling her not to, people were telling her not to write in first person. I was like, no, we're not going to be doing that today.
And like, it's amazing because Bree, can you imagine like if they had known, like, no, don't write in first person. Like, they just don't know that I'm gonna headbutt them and go, I do what I want. They have no idea.
Yeah.
So that's so dig your heels in and do it more.
Yeah.
She is very contrary.
I was gonna go somewhere else and do it. So, Bree kept me in that mailing list. God, we're like 800 years old.
It was the mailing list days of fandom.
Oh, mailing list, yeah.
Well, I was just talking about my 70s body stripper, so I've got a few years on.
It's okay.
I mean, I'm older in, reading age, like dog years or whatever. So what clicked between you? At what point did you know, I'm going to work with her?
We just sort of like said it'll be fun to bounce ideas off of each other for like fanfics, right?
Yeah,
like, so that's what we started doing.
Yeah, we helped each other plot, we read each other's stuff. And then there was like sort of a brief period where I moved in with her. And we
with my family, yeah.
Literally like got on a Greyhound bus, left most of my furniture behind, packed up some boxes and moved across the country to Alabama. I was in California at the time, and I was 21. Donna had flown to California for my 21st birthday in March, and things were not going great out there. I had like a kind of weird job. I was selling non-denominational angel paraphernalia just strange stuff. And so Donna was like, you should just move in with me. And I was like, that is a funny thing you're saying. She's like, no, just come move in with me and my family. I'll go ask my parents. And so she did. And they were like, sure. And I was like, okay. And so I got on a Greyhound bus. I do not recommend this to 20-year-olds out there, 21-year-olds. It seems insane that I did this, but I did. So I got on a Greyhound bus and went to Alabama. And we spent a few years after that, like, you know, kind of doing real life stuff. We joined tabletop games, met our husbands, got married. I went back to school. Donna had some babies.
Yeah.
And well, we were hanging around with the babies a lot. Because she would come over and just throw a baby at me and I would she'd have the other one. That was when we started getting back into, like, you know, missing writing. And like we would talk about stuff and we would plot stuff. And we finally decided that maybe since, you know, we like doing this so much, we should just try writing together, because the one thing we had never done on our own was finish anything original.
Yeah.
You know, but so having each other together to like make that goal seem like obtainable and to push each other on, it was the first time that we actually like finished writing something that was our own work, and it was really fun.
So how old were you guys when you met?
I was 20 and she was 24.
Yeah.
So it's been 20 years. 23 years.
22. Yeah, almost 23. Yeah.
So you had known Donna for about a year when you hopped on a bus to go live with her.
Under a year.
Yeah. Less than a year, yeah.
I knew her on the internet and I had met her once in California for 3 days. And then I got on a Greyhound bus and moved in
with her. Her parents were very concerned about this.
I called them from Texas.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yes. Those at home, don't do this at home.
No.
I have a 19-year-old college freshman now, and if he ever tries this, I will go find him and drag him back by his ankles.
Yeah. It was a wild thing. I was a chaotic kid, I guess. That's all I can say. Adventurous. So,
well, I mean, obviously something came of it. It wasn't just,
I mean, in retrospect, yeah, it's hard for everybody to say, well, you shouldn't have done that, because it did work out pretty well for us.
Right. I mean, it's fine. I mean, my parents were normal. Like,
yes.
You know, they weren't weird, you know. I mean, Bree and my dad like would carpool like to work and stuff. And, you know, I mean, it was like completely normal.
Yeah, her parents were lovely. They just basically adopted me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so I sort of settled down in there because I was having undiagnosed ADHD problems staying in college at this point. Mm-hmm. Which, you know, is a problem for people with undiagnosed ADHD often. Okay. So I had actually like gone back to college and had just graduated when we started submitting our first stuff. Mm-hmm. I had my ADHD finally diagnosed, and that helped. And so, yeah, that was, so we, about 7 years after we met, no, 8 years after we met was when we published our first thing together.
Yeah. So
we had like, you know, a lot of different stuff go on in there, college and babies and getting married, but still, yeah, a friendship lasted through all of that. And now we have a crazy business partnership.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into your writing process a little bit. How did that first manuscript come to be?
That was Crux, wasn't it? That was like the first one.
Yeah, that was the first thing we started writing.
You know, it's we wanted to basically, the way we write is kind of funny, because I think it's because we're gamers and we had we loved making up characters and throwing them against each other. So we sort of like still do that. We write, we divide our characters up, and we get to be in charge of like, you know, everything that they say and think and their goals and their motivations and stuff. And so we really just write really collaboratively. Like, it's not that I'll never write her characters doing anything, but, you know, if it's going to be something important, if it's going to be a deep conversation of dialogue or like, you know, any sort of action or anything, we'll just both be in Google Docs going back and forth, seizing control from each other, typing stop, my turn, or whatever. So it's a very active sort of collaborative process. And it seems very normal to me now, but I know when I describe it to other authors, a lot of them just get hives imagining someone in their Google Docs interrupting them when they're writing. But we're just so used to it at this point.
What did you do before Google Docs?
We emailed it back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still have. We wrote the first 5 Beyond books in email.
Mm-hmm.
Literally in email back and forth to each other.
And when we had finished like a scene or a chapter or something, I would put it in a Word doc in a manuscript. And I mean, I kind of still do, except it's all already in it like a Google Doc, and I'll just like download it as a Word doc. And then it's like, okay, now we got to polish the sucker up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's still the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't live close by to each other now.
Oh, we do.
You do. Oh, but
We're like 3 miles away from each other. Out in the woods.
Like a dining room table, just, scribbling away. That's why I'm kind of like, oh, but you must live across the country from each other.
We don't do that. We can't do that because we get distracted. Like,
yeah, we're
just talking about other stuff.
Yeah, we used to try to like do writing, but even if we want to write in the same house, like if someone's internet goes out, someone has to like come over and go in another room with their computer, because we will just like kind of, get sidetracked, start talking, not pay attention to the words.
Yep.
And sometimes I'm just like, no, I can't write the stuff I have to write if someone is in the room with me.
Yeah, that too.
Like,
so, did Crux get published?
It did, but it wasn't one of the first things that got published. We had some stories first, and then eventually we started working with the e-publisher Samhain, and we sent Crux to her, and she sent it back, and she's like, okay, I have edited the first third of this to teach you craft, and now you are going to edit the rest of it on your own, and then we'll talk about publishing it. So first books are rough, and so we had some story there that I liked. There are things I would do differently now because I'm 15 years more experienced.
Right.
But like, a lot of that, she taught us a lot about writing. She was a great editor, and Scott.
So what did come out first?
We had a short story that I don't even think is up anymore. I'm working on getting some of our out of print short stories that we had at like various little e-publishers back out. But Cry Sanctuary, I think, was the first thing we had out with Samhain, and that was like in late 2008.
That's like a category, like a 45,000 word thing. Crux was the first like full-length novel.
Yeah.
That we did.
And so that was, and that we were writing as Moira Rogers then. Yeah. That was our original pen name. Kit Rocha was supposed to be this like side project for, we were like, well, we're going to write this bonkers book that does everything that everybody has ever told us to not do. And we're just going to put it out under a different name for when it like absolutely bombs. And then we ended up assassinating our original pen name with it. So
yeah, because I was going to say, I've been reading, obviously romance forever, and I've never heard of Moira Rogers, but I've known Kit Rocha for a long time. So.
That book, I mean, it blew up, and I feel like I often use it as an example when I start listening to voices in my head too much. Is remember, anytime you've ever written a book that's like blown up, it's because you just said, fuck what everybody's telling me I'm supposed to be writing. Just write what makes you happy.
Free language.
Sorry.
That's okay. If there are children here, I'm not fussed about it. they knew what they were in for.
It is a very Kit Rocha.
That's true.
Sort of
That's
words.
True.
So as a writing duo, because this just fascinates me, Dawn, what are your strengths that you bring to the table?
I am the editor. That's the biggest thing that I do. Like we both do like character development. We both do like plot stuff, but like there are parts of the creative process that Bree is just like better at. But I am the editor. And
when
so
she says
like,
better at, what she means is I can throw out 100 ideas and like 10 of them will be pretty decent and 1 or 2 will be brilliant, but I have no idea which one's brilliant and which one's utter trash.
But that's where it comes in handy to be the editor. Because then, it's like, oh, look, here you go. I think this is the one, and it's that is my thing. I think that I'm good with characters too. Oh, one of the things that I can do really well is subtle threading of themes and symbols through a manuscript. They are occasionally we will have editors that they're a little too subtle for, and I have to make them a little more obvious. But I really, really like books where you have to read them again after you finished to really pick up all the stuff, and then you're like, oh right, that was in there. And Bree does this on a subconscious level. All the time, there will be stuff in there, and I'll be like, oh, I love what you did here with this thing, and she's like, not on purpose. Didn't do it on purpose. And I'm like, I would love to just do that automatically, but I have to think about it all the time.
That's because I'm too busy running through the manuscript with anvils, just slamming the point home. Because I am not, generally speaking, a subtle writer. I may subconsciously be one, but actively I am a punch people in the face with it.
After we've dropped the anvil, let's pick it up and drop it again. But that's okay, because then that balances out, I think.
Yeah.
I guess the only other thing that I really like is I really like being able to find sort of there are these moments when you're reading a book where it just requires the absolute perfect turn of phrase. And this is Bree and I have conversations sometimes about when it comes to music, Bree is all about the beat and the melody and kind of tuning out any words that might exist. And I, meanwhile, am for me, songs are it's lyrical poetry, right? And I love the way that in a song, you really, if you are going to hit something, you can do it maybe with 2 or 3 words. And that's always kind of what I'm going for when I'm writing. It's sometimes you don't want to do it too often because it gets a little twee and precious. But sometimes you need a thing that says 5 paragraphs worth of stuff with 3 words. And I love doing that. But yeah, those are
just good at it.
Their turn of phrase and subtle threads. That's me.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that your books are spare. There's not a lot of extra words. You can read it pretty thoroughly and not have to, be caught up in junky stuff that doesn't,
what did I just read? I've got to read that paragraph again.
Right.
I don't like that.
Yeah. So I have.
But we like to be invisible. Except for occasionally when you sneak up and just drop a killer line for a moment you need to emphasize. But most of the time, I don't want to be a distraction. I don't want the reader thinking about me crafting these tortuous paragraphs. I should be quiet and in the background. And that's how I like to write.
And is your strength just getting words on the paper, or what do you bring to the
I think this idea is I have so many ideas. So many ideas.
But you are also good at getting words on the paper.
I am. I'm good at writing. I can sort of go into a hyper-focused fugue state and write a lot of stuff, and it'll actually turn out pretty good.
Fugue state.
It is. I mean, that's what I felt like when we finished the sequel to Consort of Fire. The last couple months, we were writing a lot of words a day, and I was just and I was so stressed.
No, Bree.
Yeah, what?
How many words do we write?
We wrote 55,000 words in 15 days.
Oh, wow.
It was more words than I wanted to do.
Yeah, and it was frankly too many words. It's amazing they're not all garbage.
And in fact, almost none of them were garbage, which was a surprise to both of us.
They were really good, but that's over half of a short book. That's half of a fairly long book. That's a lot of words.
Yeah.
And just I don't actually recommend that. As a regular practice, unless
But
you can do that with ease. But sometimes you just got to do what you've got to do.
So, before I get into the books, because I do want to spend some time on them, what is one instance when you had to like walk away from each other? Not as like, I'm done with you, I'm never working with you again, but just like, oh,
The great beyond jealousy misunderstanding of 2000
Oh,
2012 or whatever it was.
is that still the biggest one? I think it might be. I think that might still be the biggest.
That one was bad. That was we basically, what had happened is Beyond Jealousy is the 4th book in the series, and we had been setting this relationship up between these 3 people in the background of the previous 3 books, and it was like, everybody was thinking it was the love triangle, but it was going to turn into a triad, so it was going to be, and it was very delicate, and we
just thought we were jazz handsing our way through there. We were like, this is gonna be great, we're laying all this groundwork, and
there was one conversation that was referenced happening off page, and we never really like sat down and decided what was happened in this conversation.
Right.
And we both had very different ideas of what it was. And so then we got into a place where these 2 characters were sort of having some conflict and fighting.
It was Ace and Rachel, obviously.
It was Ace and Rachel, and we were getting mad at each other as we went because we both thought our character was in the right based on this off-screen conversation that we had imagined. Yeah. And like Donna had imagined it went one way in which Rachel was the righteous one, and I imagined it had gone a very different way. And so we were like, the characters were arguing, and we were getting snippier and snippier at each other as we like started like defending why we were writing the stuff we were writing.
That is one of the dangers, kids, by the way, of doing like seriously deep point of view character work, is that it's like somebody just walked up and insulted your ugly baby.
I was like,
and you don't like it.
She's being a little lacking in understanding here, and like Donna's like, he's being a bit of an asshole.
So, but here's
are you now talking about the characters though at this point?
we figured it out.
Throw out like the first what was it? It was 10 or 15,000 words we'd written. We basically had to throw them out.
Did we?
Yes, because there's
an alternate start to Beyond Jealousy.
Yes, you came over on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, and you were like, we have to start this book over, basically.
Did I? I don't remember that at all.
It may not have been like we had to throw away the beginning, but we threw away a bunch.
Okay, yeah. So, all right.
Yeah, we were just like sitting in my living room, and I remember it very clearly after all the fighting had ended, very dejected, drinking straight from the champagne bottle. Like, we had to throw this all away.
But we made it work, and we learned an important lesson, which is that anytime we have important things that happen off the page, like in the background of like one book that's going to come to bear or have like a big impact, we write the scene. Yeah. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, like we keep it. It just, it's just in a Google Doc forever. Nobody sees it but us, unless we decide to do some sort of like little outtake drop for, like fans or something. But it means that we are on the same page.
Yes.
Because that's the thing. That's where a lot of the conflict really can come from, that you really can't just say, I'm going to solve this with communication. Because if you think you're communicating about one thing, but the other person's communicating about something else, well, you're at cross purposes. Like there's no, so yeah, we learned that we need to get our stuff straight before we go on, and especially if it's going to be contentious stuff.
Yes.
So
wow, so that could have been your like Beatles moment where you just like that was it, but you pulled it together.
It could have been, but by that point we were like, money is nice. So we had like kids dance lessons to pay for and stuff. So
That book was
Yeah.
rough though. It was definitely, it was the first time I think we wrote one with 3 protagonists.
Mhm.
And so like it the balance and the pacing and everything was, you know, a little off. And
It
it's
was
funny because
hard.
this one also has 3 protagonists. But because we were writing multiple books, we got to pace about these same characters. We got to pace it differently. And I
Right.
think that really helped us because we got to trying to get, I mean, when you have 3 people, you've got it's not just like 3 dynamic, it's like all of them together and then each of them individually and then with each other. And it's, you know, there was a lot of stuff
Yeah.
we had to work on. And so
But I really like how jealousy turned out.
yes, we threw away the words and we did it the right way. But
And
but
we-
it always have that New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
So I think I told you that my romance book club went down a rabbit hole with your books. But because I want to make sure we have time for this question, I'm going to ask it now. Katie Robert once told me that she has like Barbie dolls that she uses, yoga Barbie dolls, to figure out the sexual things in her books. You're a duo, so like, how do you figure it out?
We have stick people porn. We draw stick people porn.
Donna has sent me stick people porn before.
Yeah.
There also was, in Tumblr's heyday, there was like a romance author back room. My editor doesn't think X is possible. Someone find a picture.
Right. Find me like a GIF from a porn movie. Yeah.
Yeah, porn shifts on it. So there was like seriously somebody find a picture if this works. The back room deals with the romance authors all trying to appease editors, which is a funny answer, but I mean it's true.
It's stick people porn. Yeah. We still have pictures of it because obviously we're not in the same place, so I have to draw it, take a picture and send it to Bree. And you know, then there's just stick people porn on my, and you have to label it because stick people all look the same.
Yeah.
So you know, sometimes you have to label body parts. That gets a little bit like, you know,
especially in Beyond, because like there's so many people sometimes.
Oh,
and it's like Donna's like, okay, I don't see how you're visualizing this scene. And I'm like, okay, here's the bed to draw the people.
I remember it was
Beyond Ruin.
The last time that I had to draw and then redraw stick people porn was when we were doing a scene in Beyond Ruin. Yeah. I was like, no, he's over here. And it was like, just, it's so great. It's exactly what you want to be doing with your time when you're a whole ass adult. I
don't know how
people porn.
I don't know if people imagine it's like sexy to write these scenes, but sometimes it's just like Donna's drawing stick people porn and I'm like counting the hands on my fingers. Like, wait, are there 11 hands? There's only 4 people. What's going on?
You know what we need to do? We need to text Katie and find out where she got these like yoga Barbies. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, look us up, Katie.
She told me that she didn't use them for her latest book, so they might be like available for use.
Oh, I wonder if we could buy them off of her.
I don't know. I think the stick people thing is working for you.
It has done. We got used to it. We got pretty good at it.
That's true. I would not say we got good at it.
Okay.
There's no getting good at stick people porn. It will always be stick people porn.
Well, yes. So a stick figure really has no like extremities, I'll say, right? So you're still having to figure out where slot A, tab B.
Directionality usually helps with that, but sometimes there are arrows.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's arrows.
We usually roughly know what's going on, and this is to help with the general positions of everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I want those yoga Barbies.
Yeah.
I want them. I'm gonna make a note right now. I'm making a note to find out where Katie got those.
I think now with the popularity of Barbie, the movie, you'll probably find it much easier than maybe before.
Katie Barbies. Okay, fair. In a note.
So, okay, that was my sex question. I had to ask it, but what is like the one thing that you want people to walk away from reading your books?
Oh gosh.
I mean, joy and hope usually.
That's two things.
That's a big thing, but I know it's cheating.
Okay. Well, I mean, we could have just each. Okay, you say joy and I'll say hope. How about
Okay,
that?
joy.
Hope. There.
That
There
was
we go.
co-writing right there.
Well, I mean, I think you succeed with that because, you know, hard things happen in your books, but like there's also like that sense of connection and sort of like, even though they're like can be sci-fi or paranormal or whatever, that the humanity is there, which I think is something that I look for in books, the empathy, the humanity.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go
Definitely,
back
yeah.
to the Mercenary Librarians because I love them. Because they truly are like people that took a terrible thing, like a situation, and turned it around and kept their humanity and taught other people how to be the same. So,
Yeah.
you know, what was when you were writing that trilogy, and I want more books, I don't want 3, I want 10. I can think of like 10 different characters that I would like to hear stories about. But you know, what brought that whole series to you as an idea, as a concept, as a reality?
I got this one.
Go for
I got
it.
it. We wanted to do something that was a little bit closer to home because the Beyond series is set in Nevada. And we wanted to do something in that same world, like with the same precipitating events. And we were like, well, one thing that we could do is just sort of like explore some of the other regions in the country that we have, you know, intimated about, but we haven't really like explained what's going on. And we thought that Atlanta would be like a really fun place because it's not too close to home, but it's also, you know, close enough to be familiar. And we already kind of like covered a certain type of, let's call it dictatorial dynamic over it with the Beyond stuff, that we were like, okay, here's the thing. What would it look like for that? Only if, frankly, let's be real, Facebook did it instead of the military, you know, like, and so that's basically what it is. It's like, okay, you have still you've got a big technological corporation that has essentially recreated company towns. So, and that was sort of where we started off. But we knew that we wanted to do some really fun stuff with kind of the kind of superhuman experimental things that we had also talked about in Beyond. We wanted to explore that a little more deeply, I would say. And so we were like, well, you know, we can do whatever we want. There's this whole, it's kind of like a fresh slate, but it's comforting because you're not having to necessarily do like all of the world building as well, because you've done it. You know what this world is about. So now you're just kind of, you know, turning the camera and looking at a different part of it. And so it was an opportunity to do something that was a little bit more fantastical, I guess, which is weird to put in opposition to the Beyond stuff because it's also pretty fantastical, but in a different way. But
A lot of people don't think of Beyond as sci-fi, and I think that Mercenary Librarians, you would not make that mistake.
Yeah, you can't, because it checks too many of the boxes that people would use to, you know, to categorize stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's not dystopian either. It's not like the world has come to an end. It's just changed dramatically. But
I mean, I think it sort of has, but the thing about people is that we do seem kind of hard to kill. You know, just it not individually, you know, we're like very fragile meat bags, but you know, as a species, you know, we're invasive and hard to kill. So I think that we would persevere. And that's really kind of, there's all the time, like in the books, people are talking about like the world ending again, you know. I mean, like they've sort of just, you know, accepted this. There are people, Bree, who are asking about Gideon.
Well,
There are.
Just a
I
second.
see it. I see it.
Will you guys finish Gideon's Riders?
We want to desperately, because the thing about Gideon's Riders is that it's another one of those kind of like turning the camera moments. And obviously all of the sectors surrounding Eden that make up the Beyond series, that area, they all have a different vibe. They all have a different culture. And one of the things that people don't really like notice this as much until we kind of like point it out. But if you were going to be doing like historicals, like Regency, Georgians, like things like that in this world, it's the Gideon's Riders series. Like they actually are kind of like our, like we get our like historical writing yayas out, like with a lot of the tropes and things. And our next book, the big trope that we're doing, like we did like a Regency house party in the last one, and the next one is like a marriage of convenience. So we really want to do it. We really do desperately want to do it.
It turns out that bodies are a scam and having to pay your bills also is.
Right. Those two things are a definite scam. A definite scam.
So when we have like a little bit of we're hoping to just eventually find a little space and health where we can, you know, do a little more work. Right now it's just kind of been treading water. We both dealt with some COVID stuff and, you know, then fallout. So it's been a lot of not getting to write as many things as we really want to write. And I really miss having more stuff. So
yeah,
we hope because we want to write. We have covers for book 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, we've got like 4 more
beautiful covers from like bespoke photo shoots with like costumes we picked out and everything, and like, so yeah, we want to write those and use those.
I was gonna say, like, you need the words. The covers are great. Laura says, do you think you'll write Connell's book one day, even if it doesn't come out with Tor?
That's another we really want to.
Yeah, it's if we can find the time and the place and the story, you know, it's just, it all depends. We want to, like we did, and I think that some of you in here know that we actually did pitch 2 books to Tor, books 4 and 5. We just couldn't quite come to terms on them. They liked them, but we needed a lot more money to go back into a very miserable apocalypse.
Right. Yeah, it turns out the thing about basing like your series on what if like Facebook owned everything is kind of depressing, because guess what? Facebook owns everything. Doing the research for that is very much like, you know, what are the Silicon Valley tech bros trying to like screw up now? You know, it was like, what are they already doing? Like this, we would come up with these ideas. We're like, this is the worst thing I can think of for this situation. And we would like look it up, and people are either doing it or trying to already. Yeah. And we're like,
as a Leverage fangirl, one of my favorite Twitter moments was bonding with Donna Rogers over how it's impossible to name evil companies, because the evilest, most on the nose names you can think of, they're out there naming their companies that shit gleefully.
There's a freaking meal replacement thing that calls itself Soylent. I'm like, guys.
Oh my gosh. So
yes, John Rogers did. Yes, Deborah. John Rogers did like empathize with me on Twitter once, and I was like, first, I love you, sir. Thank you. Also, why is this so hard?
We have covers for the Gideons. We have Hunter, we have Gabe, we have Reyes, and we have Zeke.
Well, people are asking for you to share them.
That
maybe a little holiday cheer for us.
I'm not in charge of that, because I would tell or show everybody everything. Like I'm not allowed to touch that stuff because I'm like, oh sure, here, take a look at it. It's great. Would you like to know how this ends? You know, like I'm
Donna
bad
is the
about that.
spoiler dropper.
I am. I'm terrible.
We like that in a
I'm
duo.
bad. You know what I would like to do with Connell? I would like to do like a little like Christmas novella or something with
would be
his
nice.
thing. That would be so cute.
And the
A
thing about
Connell
Connell is
Christmas novella.
we did have two. Should we tell you? Should we just like say? I don't know if people want to be avoiding spoilers or if we should say who they were. One was Connell and Max, and one was, you know, his little apocalypse hookup buddy.
Right.
And one was Ava and Beth and Mace.
Oh,
I hope
and-
everyone's read Deal with the Devil already.
Yeah.
Woo! Otherwise,
just
you are going to be really. It's not a
confused.
zombie book. Just
Yeah, I
wanna
just
let
thought
you
of that.
know,
Just
not a
forget
zombie
those
book.
names real fast.
Forget the names. They don't exist.
But
in that
anyway,
there.
yeah,
you know we are recording this.
that's okay.
That's right. I didn't do it that time.
It's okay. I did it that time. It was me.
That's me.
Awesome. I love it.
So, you know, and that latter book is probably a big action piece because of what it was. But I will say that I can see a Connell, you know, holiday novella that would be
That'd be
actually
so
pretty
cute.
sweet.
I'd love to do it.
We'll put that in our back pockets for
I'm gonna make another note.
I'm sure that Laura would be really happy if he got to have a book where nothing happened to him.
Oh my
Nobody
god.
injured him.
Look, Connell's been through enough, man.
That poor
A Connell Christmas. I wrote it down. It's a
I
Connell
will-
Christmas.
It's
I will
official.
tell you guys, since it's so long since we released Beyond Happily Ever After, I will tell you one more secret. Our plan, if we once we turn edits on this book, we are writing our long awaited epilogue novella for Rachel, Ace, and Cruz. We have been wanting to do this for a couple of years. And we have a cover for it and everything, and we know everything we want to do with it, but we need Rachel and Ace and Cruz and the babies and everybody having a nice time. So see what their future looks like and what they want to do for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, you guys get to see what it looks like when Liam Riley is a legitimate businessman.
So yes. It's called Beyond Exile because they're going home to face Eden, since all of them have connections there. And, you know, the question will be if they're welcome there, is that where they want to go, or do they want to stay in their home? So
There are a lot of reasons why there are a lot of people in Eden who would like for the three of them to be there.
So
Well,
that is what we're going to do. Hopefully this month and next month. So cross your fingers for us. We have not actually
And toes.
self-published anything since Ivan in 2018, which
Right.
is sort of crazy because, you know, it's just the pandemic sort of ran over us after we signed that tour contract. So,
Yeah.
but we're really excited
mhm.
about that and about this. We are like so excited about this.
Yes. I love the horny dragon book.
Who doesn't?
I hope everyone does. Everyone, please love the horny dragon book. It would be great.
I'll make that my new tagline. It's so funny. So, so you don't see any end to your writing duo ship?
Not at this point.
No, not particularly.
I mean, like, have you ever thought, like, I'm gonna be like that guy on Wham and just go off on my own?
You know what? Here's the thing that I think. I think that if Bree and I did part ways, it would be very much like Andrew and George splitting up in Wham. Because here's the thing. It was like, it's like I'm Andrew, right? And Bree's George. And if Bree decided she would be like better doing her own thing, Andrew completely supported that move. He was like, Giorgio, do it. Go do the thing. Be that guy. Be the man. And I feel like that is how we would be. I would be like, go out there and kill it. So, I don't know. One day we might be like the guys from Wham, but definitely
No,
just like the
I'd
guys
be
from
running
Wham.
back after Donna going, please tell me which idea is good.
You can hire editors for that though. See,
It wouldn't be nearly as much fun though, right?
that's true. It wouldn't.
My
quit.
favorite part is that in writing, it's very rare to have someone who is exactly as invested in your career as you are.
Right.
And Donna and I have this one thing where there is always someone who is as excited as we are about like everything that happens.
Or as ready to go to bat if
Yeah.
something needs to happen. So yeah.
It's true. That is true. Like you always know who has your back.
And
Yeah.
there's never any kind of like disparity. It's like you see a lot of authors who kind of like have problems navigating, like if they kind of start out like this and then one author kind of shoots off into the stratosphere and everyone else is kind of stuck, and then it's like there's this weird like dynamic that you're not really sure how to navigate. That is just not going to be us. We'll always be in the same place.
Yep, it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, George did take off, but he always had his heart in the right place, I guess. I could dig into that more because I just watched the documentary a few weeks ago.
I did too. I loved it. I thought that it was so great.
Like, is this common knowledge that everyone should have? Because I have no idea what is going on right now. I'm so glad you both watched the documentary.
Oh no, I did know that before, but the documentary. Why haven't you watched it? Because you're not a music person.
I barely know what Wham is.
You need to watch it. It's seriously heartwarming, and I think that you would love it. Yeah.
Okay.
That one, the Taylor Swift one, and I think there's a Beyonce one that is really good too. But anyways, another tangent. Sorry, everybody. I will continue to hope for more librarians because I think librarians are the best protagonists.
Absolutely.
They're just the kind of person you want in the in a love story.
Yes.
I think in a dystopian love story. So thank you for that. That whole series has made my day. People are like, "Oh, you're a librarian. I read about librarians," and I'm like, "Yeah, we're not quite like that."
I mean, maybe some are. I don't
know. Maybe badass.
We are totally badass. That is
I think so.
Yeah.
Like I told you before we started recording, man, the invisible safety net. And we all should be paying you all a lot more.
Yeah.
And giving you resources and doing things that mean you don't have to be the
all
invisible
the
safety net. So yeah, we respect that so much, and that's part of why we wrote the series.
Well, we actually love having your books in the libraries, like either digital or physical, because we do see people taking them out and feeling that hope and joy when they come back and they're like, "I love this book. It made me feel so good. I escaped from a difficult situation, and it just gave me hours of reading pleasure." So thank you so much for that. Whatever else is happening in the world, that is what you're giving to your readers, and we love it. So thank you.
That means so much.
Well, thank you for being here and taking the hour to really answer all of my questions. I don't know if anybody else got their questions answered, but I think
we did.
I'm good at snooping the chat.
Yeah. I was totally into like our conversation. That's a good host on my part. But I will be in touch. I'd be in touch with you guys to give you the video link, and also to everybody that was here. Thank you for being here and listening and laughing with us. It's been a wonderful night. I really appreciate all of your time.
Deborah asked if I can give a spicy Lanfear take. Do you know about the Wheel of Time show? Do you watch it?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm in love with Lanfear now. She's evil, and that's okay.
Bree talked about her yesterday at me for an hour.
Yeah, I was like, Donna, we have to look at all of her clothing and we have to discuss why she is evil, but also the best character right now.
It's true.
But we needed something spicy about her.
Well, spicy. I'm like, I can't give spoilers.
No spoilers.
So
no spoilers.
Okay.
I'm going to say, well, I guess my spicy take is because I've never been like one of the people who gets on is like the villain fans. Like that has not been who I am. I almost always hate the villains. But my spicy take is now I'm here to explore the dark side because Lanfear is too cool.
Deborah's apologizing. I've got no problem with land fear. Work it, baby. Like, great. I got no problem.
Where is she buying these jumpsuits and shoes and boots and everything? I
Who
need
is
to
her
know.
tailor? Tell me now.
So
I love it. I do, because I've watched some of the show, not all of it, but I read the books. So I'm I'm here for your takes. And
well, if you haven't seen season 2, I don't know who the books we're talking about, but this glorious goddess has come to steal the show.
Bree has strong feels. They're not very spicy though.
well, we like any of your feels, and I've been watching your is it X, I guess, whatever your comments about it. So I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
Yay!
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you, guys.